Ingrid came out at the same time that I decided to drop Luke. While I wasn't interested in her at first, her trailers changed my mind. She looked like a genuinely unique character, something which is rare in Street Fighter 6. I'd never really played a Zoner before, but I'd always been curious about the playstyle. I decided to give her a shot and try her out for a few weeks. I wasn't sure what to expect. Her playstyle is very different from my usual characters. There was a bit of a learning curve. I was fighting against my instinct to force my way in. Zoners are all about controlling the opponent. It's not that you shouldn't be aggressive, but it's usually better to be patient and find the right moment to start your offense. Once this clicked, everything became quite smooth. I was climbing faster than I usually do on a new character. Whenever I'd get into the rhythm of her fireball game, I'd usually win the round. I ended the 3 weeks at 1750 MR, around where my Luke usually sits. I did hit a barrier around 1600 MR, but otherwise it was fairly smooth. I also have a ton more to learn, especially with level 2. I don't think it will take me long to get her up to Ultimate Master. That's where I ended the 3 weeks, but the start wasn't as smooth. The first day was a bit rough. It was a lot of scrambly mirror matches. As with every day 1 character, it was a mess of knowledge checks. Once I got her to Master, I called it a day. Over the next few days, I was able to play some more matches and get a proper feel for the character. Ingrid's mediums are stubby, which made playing mid-range hard. I also found her inputs counterintuitive. Having a DP on a quarter circle felt strange. I also kept getting her fireballs the wrong way round. For some reason, my brain wanted the beam to be on quarter circle forward and not back. I felt like most of my wins were being carried by fireball drive rush and crouching medium kick drive rush. This led to me burning out a lot. It's also not the right way to play the character. If you want to play that way, you're better off picking Mai. Despite my early struggles, I did manage to get some glimpses of her potential. Ingrid can be threatening from all ranges. She has a reversal, she has high damage, and if she can get stocks, she can easily control the match. My first impression was that how good she'll be will depend on how easy it is to build stocks. It was clear at this point that mindlessly grinding ranked wasn't helping me to learn the character. I decided to spend the next couple of days in the lab. The main thing I was labbing was pressure, learning what her options are in each situation. This depends on how many stocks you have and whether you want to build stocks or go for Oki. I also learnt some meaty overhead and other corner setups. Although Ingrid doesn't have a throw loop, a light fireball after a throw does give her pressure. If the opponent blocks it, you'll get a strike throw mix, and if they jump, you can usually react with DP. I also spent some time learning to use her level 2, although I've barely scratched the surface of its true potential. It gives you a ton of control over the state of the match. You can use it for mix-ups, to restore resources, to burn the opponent out, to get chip kills, or just for damage. I'm barely scratching the surface. I have a long list of clips to study, like this DP punish which burns the opponent out from full drive. A lot of people are saying it's weaker than level 2s of characters like JP, Blanka or Rashid. While that's probably true, coming from Luke, whose level 2 is terrible, it feels so versatile. I learnt that having a strong level 2 makes a character much more interesting to play. You actually have to consider whether to use level 2 or save for level 3. This is way more dynamic than Luke, who usually just dumps meter on level 3 in every game. Now that I'd done the lab work, it was time to go back to ranked. By this point, Ingrid had been out for almost a week, so there was much more character variety. This is when I really started to get comfortable. I had gotten more familiar with the range and speed of her buttons. I was also getting fewer misinputs. I started to get some muscle memory for her DP and even landed some crosscuts. I also got used to her reversal, which is better than I initially thought. I think I'd still rather a traditional DP, but it isn't bad. One thing I realised about Ingrid is how important her stocks are. If you have stocks, her beam becomes plus, which makes her pressure significantly better. It does a ton of drive damage and lets you keep your turn. Because of how powerful this is, Ingrid can play a hit and run playstyle. You zone the opponent out while building stocks, and the more you manage to build, the scarier you are when it's time to go in. I'm a big fan of the decision making and resource management involved in Ingrid's gameplay. You're always weighing the decision of whether or not to spend stocks. During her combos, you need to choose if you want to go for Oki or build stocks. There's a ton to think about. Ingrid's zoning isn't just for building resources. If she can get set up, then her fireball game can be oppressive. Once I got the hang of it, I found that sometimes I'd win matches without ever letting my opponents get in. Her zoning does have some flaws, however. Ingrid's fireball has deceptively long recovery. It has 49 total frames. That's almost as much as Sagat's low tiger shot. This means that it can be jumped on reaction, and any character with an anti-fireball tool shuts it down completely. It also disappears if she gets hit, so there's no risk of the opponent getting interrupted. Her medium beam is slightly faster, but it's still not the best. This means that how well Ingrid is able to zone is heavily matchup dependent. Ingrid's stubby mediums can make it hard to get the opponent off you or to steal turns. These two downsides mean that Ingrid has some rough matchups. Ingrid's bad matchups generally come in one of two forms. Characters like Mai and Kimberly who can force their way into a range where Ingrid is uncomfortable. In these matchups it's easy to get steamrolled, but Ingrid can still get her pressure started if she gets an advantage. There's also characters like JP and Blanka who have strong anti-fireball tools that shut down the core of Ingrid's zoning game. Ingrid may be powerful, but in the current meta she definitely needs to be played alongside a secondary. I actually think that another character I'm interested in complements her well, more on that later. Despite some bad matchups, Ingrid does have a lot going for her. Her damage is extremely high in the right situations, and those situations aren't all that rare. Her corner pressure is surprisingly good thanks to her fireball Oki and her meaty overheads. When she does get her zoning going, it can be hard for the opponent to deal with. Some characters just don't have good tools to fight her. It's also hard to overstate how powerful her beam is. It's a fast, safe, full screen move that leads to a ton of damage. If you have stocks, the opponent has to play around it at all times. It can make the opponent paranoid to do anything in neutral. Ingrid is great at controlling the opponent and limiting the tools they're allowed to use. Ingrid is a character with a lot of strength, but also a lot of weakness. Her potential is clearly there, and I think she's the kind of character that has a big ceiling for optimization. She certainly has notable strengths, but the top tier of this game is dominated by characters like Mai who have no weaknesses while also being strong. I think she needs a secondary in tournament play. Right now it feels like everyone has a Pocket Mai or Bison, so losing to these characters is rough. I'm used to Luke who has a comparatively limited toolkit, so it's hard to compare her to the top tiers which I don't really play. Ingrid is my favourite DLC character so far. I was surprised by how much I enjoy her playstyle, considering I don't usually play this kind of character. I have a ton of fun playing her and I recommend trying her if you're interested. She won't be for everyone, especially if you prefer an aggressive rushdown playstyle. I'm seriously considering sticking with Ingrid. I'm also interested in Blanka, who I want to try before I commit. I did mention that Ingrid probably needs a secondary, and I think Blanka covers Ingrid's bad matchups really well. I'm going to learn Blanka and see how I get on. I'll also keep playing Ingrid on the side. If I enjoy Blanka, then I may play a combination of the two. Expect a similar video to this one for Blanka at some point relatively soon. I may also make a guide for Ingrid's level 2 as I explore that move in more detail. In the meantime, expect more character overviews and other videos. Thanks for watching, make sure to subscribe and I'll see you all next time.